The distress signal was garbled, half corrupted by radiation flares, but one phrase came through clear. The core is awake. We are not alone. Commander Rain Vasquez stood at the viewport of the Ragnarok, staring at the swirling void of the wormhole that led to Outpost Epsilon 7. She had heard thousands of distress calls in her career, but something about this one made her skin crawl. This isn't a rescue mission anymore, she muttered. This is containment. Behind her, the team prepped for deployment. 5 soldiers, battle-hardened, specialists in deep space incursions, each one chosen for their ability to survive the impossible. Lieutenant Cade Grayson checked his pulse rifle. Containment? We don't even know what the hell we're containing. We will soon, Rain said, grabbing her helmet. 5-minute countdown. We drop in hard and fast. The Ragnarok shuddered as it entered the wormhole, space folding around it. The ship's AI, Luna, crackled over the comms. Approaching anomaly. Temporal fluctuations detected. Gravity field unstable. Steady, Rain growled. The viewport flickered. The planet below, Ganymede 9, wasn't supposed to look like that. It was wrong. The colony, once a sprawling industrial settlement, was now shifting. Buildings folded into themselves like origami, stretching and twisting. Lights flickered in unnatural patterns. The land itself rippled like water, and above it all, at the heart of the chaos, loomed a massive black sphere, hundreds of meters wide, floating above the surface like a dark wound in reality. The black iron core. Mother of God, whispered Corporal Lex Tanner. What is that thing? Rain narrowed her eyes. The reason no one's made it off this rock alive. The ship jolted violently. Massive energy spike detected. Time-space distortion increasing. The core pulsed. A wave of black energy surged outward. The Ragnarok's alarms screamed. Warning. Impact imminent. Brace. The ship twisted, caught in an unseen force. Reality itself bent. The cockpit warped, stretched, split. Rain's team screamed as their bodies twisted in and out of focus, caught between past and present. And then, impact. Darkness. Rain woke up to a hellscape. Her armor's HUD flickered, rebooting. Static buzzed in her ears. The crash site was unrecognizable. The Ragnarok was split in half, its wreckage scattered across a field of metallic growths that pulsed like veins. She forced herself up, gasping. Her squad, where was her squad? Grayson? Tanner? Anyone? A strangled scream cut through the static. Rain turned sharply, pulse rifle raised. 50 meters ahead, Tanner was on his knees, convulsing. His body was shifting, rippling like heat wave. His flesh darkened, metallic veins crawling across his skin. His eyes flickered with black light. Rain. His voice was warped, layered with echoes. I'm. Then his body broke. It split apart like molten glass, twisting, reforming into something wrong. Arms stretched too long, fingers sharpened into obsidian claws. His skull elongated, his face splitting into 3 vertical mouths filled with needle-like teeth. Tanner wasn't Tanner anymore. Rain fired. The first shot hit his chest. Black liquid sprayed instead of blood. The thing that had been Tanner screeched, moving faster than any human should. Shit! Rain rolled, barely avoiding its claws. It struck the ground where she'd been standing, metal veins erupting from the impact. A second later, Grayson tackled the thing from the side, slamming an energy blade into its torso. The creature shrieked, its body flickering, then reforming as if time itself refused to let it die. Fall back! Rain shouted. Grayson didn't hesitate. They sprinted toward the wreckage, heartbeats hammering. Behind them, Tanner, or what was left of him, lurched forward, its body shifting like liquid metal, its scream warping the air itself. This isn't just an infection, Grayson panted. It's something else. They skidded to a stop as something massive moved in the fog ahead. Rain felt the air pulse. More shapes emerged from the shadows. Colonists, or what used to be colonists. Their bodies were twisted, flesh and metal fused into something alien. Some had extra limbs. Others had no faces at all, just smooth plates of reflective black steel. And they were all whispering. The core awakens. The flesh is unmade. You are already part of it. Rain tightened her grip on her rifle. We need to move. Now. They took shelter in an abandoned processing facility. The air inside was thick with spores. The walls, once industrial steel, were now fused with shifting, organic metal, pulsing like a living thing. The floor twisted beneath their feet, shifting unpredictably. How the hell did it spread this fast? Grayson muttered. Rain didn't have an answer. Luna's voice crackled over their suit. The core is altering time and matter at a quantum level. The colony's past, present, and future are overlapping. Rain exhaled sharply. So that means, this world is already lost. Before she could respond, the facility shifted. The walls melted, reforming. The hallway ahead twisted, bending at impossible angles. A doorway appeared where there hadn't been one. And in the doorway, a woman stood there. She was dressed in an old Epsilon 7 uniform, her face eerily calm. But her eyes were hollow voids, swirling with shifting constellations. Commander Vasquez, the woman said softly. You're out of time. Rain raised her weapon. Who the hell are you? The woman tilted her head. I was Dr. Helena Park. I led the first research team into the core. Was? Grayson echoed. She smiled. I have seen the end. I have become the end. The walls pulsed violently. Rain felt something, an invisible pressure, pulling at her mind. Dr. Park stepped forward. You still think you can fight it, but it's already inside you. And then Rain saw it. Her own reflection in the warped steel. Her arm, her left arm, wasn't human anymore. Metal veins, pulsing with black light, threaded beneath her skin. Spreading. Changing. Her breath hitched. No, she whispered. Park watched her. You've already begun to unmake? The whispers returned. Not from the walls. From inside her own mind. The core is not a thing. It is a will. It is you. Rain clenched her fist. No. No. I am still me. Park took another step. Let go, Commander. Let the core show you the truth. Grayson moved. Fast. He shot her point-blank in the head. The bullet never hit. Park's form rippled, shifting out of sync with time itself. Then she was behind him. Her hand plunged through his chest. Grayson gasped. Blood spilled from his mouth. His body convulsed, his skin darkening. Rain moved on instinct. She fired, 3 precise shots, hitting Grayson in the head before the transformation could finish. His body dropped. Rain turned, gun raised. Park was gone. Only her voice remained. You will join us soon. The whispers screamed inside Rain's skull. She stumbled, vision swimming. Her left arm burned, pulsing. The core was inside her now, and she had no idea how much time she had left. Rain stumbled forward, pressing a hand to her temple as the whispers clawed at the inside of her skull. Her breath came fast and ragged, her vision flickering between the present and something else. 1,000 images at once. A ruined version of the colony. A time before the core awakened. Grayson, still alive, laughing. A future where she wasn't human anymore. Focused. She clenched her fist, feeling the unnatural pulse of the metal veins spreading beneath her skin. The core was inside her. She had no idea how much time she had left before it finished what it started. A distant shriek echoed through the facility, high, warping, unnatural. The sound of something that had forgotten what it used to be. She wasn't alone. Rain moved fast, hugging the shadows of the shifting corridor. The industrial facility had become an alien thing, warping itself every time she blinked. Doors moved. Hallways stretched and breathed. The lights flickered in impossible patterns, as if they were speaking in some long-forgotten code. Ahead, the metal was darker, infused with the core's corruption. It pulsed like a living thing, and in the center of it, bodies, strung up like offerings. Some were colonists, their faces frozen in twisted rapture. Others soldiers. Some she recognized. And one of them moved. Rain aimed her rifle. Stay back. The figure twitched, then turned. Her stomach clenched. It was Tanner. Or something that used to be him. His body was still partially human, but his flesh flickered, phasing between past and present. His face was half corrupted, the left side a shifting mass of metal veins and black light. His eyes, one human, one void. Rain. His voice was layered, like multiple versions of himself speaking at once. You left me. Rain exhaled slowly, keeping her rifle steady. You weren't you anymore. Tanner took a slow step forward. Neither are you. Her fingers twitched over the trigger. Tanner's form glitched, phasing closer, his mouth twisting into something almost a smile. I can hear it inside you. The whispers screamed. You are already one of us? Rain fired. Tanner blurred out of existence, phased, and suddenly he was behind her. Her instincts screamed. She twisted, slamming the butt of her rifle into his ribs, but his form barely flickered. Then his hand reached for her. She felt it, cold, burning, pulling, as if his touch was trying to unravel her existence at the atomic level. Move. Rain dove forward, rolling into a crouch, leveling her rifle. Tanner turned, grinning, shifting, becoming. She fired straight into his chest. The impact sent him staggering, black ichor spraying from the wound. But it didn't stop him. His body absorbed the damage, the flesh knitting together as if time itself refused to let him die. His voice was softer now, almost pleading. Don't fight it. Rain gritted her teeth, gripping her rifle so hard her knuckles went white. She'd seen enough. She turned and ran. The world around her warped. The corridors folded in on themselves, twisting. Time fractured. She saw flickers of her own past, memories bleeding into reality. She saw herself as a child, staring out at Earth from a space station window. She saw herself at 22, covered in blood on her first mission, hands shaking. She saw herself as she was now, standing in the corridor, staring at herself. Her reflection moved first. Not a reflection. A future. The other Rain lifted her left hand, completely transformed, fingers elongated into black metal claws. Her face was half consumed, veins of dark light spreading from her eye. Future Rain tilted her head. You can't stop it, she whispered. The walls screamed. Rain stumbled into the next room, an open processing chamber, filled with dead machinery and shifting light. She barely had time to register the space before a shape dropped from the ceiling. Bigger. Faster. Wrong. It slammed into her, knocking the rifle from her hands. She rolled, gasping as someone, hauled her up by the throat and slammed her into the nearest wall. Pain. White-hot and sharp. Her vision cleared. And she froze. It was Grayson. Or what used to be Grayson. His body was fully transformed, midway between man and something beyond. His armor was fused to his skin, his entire form shifting with black metal veins that pulsed in sync with the core. He wasn't even breathing, and yet his voice was calm. You should have let go, Rain. Her pulse thundered. Grayson threw her across the chamber. She hit the ground hard, skidding across metal. Sparks erupted around her. Pain flared through her ribs. She rolled onto her knees, panting. Grayson was walking toward her, slow, deliberate. His eyes, if they could still be called eyes, were voids of shifting light. The core had taken him. You don't have to fight anymore, he said softly. The core is freedom. Rain reached for her pistol, gone. Grayson tilted his head. I don't want to hurt you. Rain clenched her jaw, breathing hard. Her left arm burned. She looked down. The metal veins had spread. Faster now. Her fingers twitched, sharpening. The infection was accelerating. She was running out of time. Grayson extended a hand. Let go, Rain. The whispers howled inside her skull. You are already one of us? For the first time, she felt it. Not fear. Not resistance. Something pulling. A hunger she didn't recognize. Her left hand moved on its own, reaching toward him. No. With a snarl, she forced her arm back, grabbing a broken piece of rebar from the ground. And she lunged. She drove it straight through Grayson's chest. He didn't react. He just stared at her, his face unreadable. Then, slowly, his form began to glitch, phasing in and out of time. Black ichor poured from his wound, his body flickering between past and present. And then, he smiled. "See you soon, Commander." He disintegrated, breaking apart into light and shadow, his form sucked into the walls, into the core itself. Rain fell to her knees, gasping. Silence. Only the whispers remained. She pressed a shaking hand to her arm. The corruption was spreading faster. She had minutes left, maybe less. Then, a transmission crackled in her ear. "Ragnarok, do you copy? We have a lock on your signal, initiating orbital strike in 3 minutes. Evacuate now." Her heart slammed against her ribs. They were going to destroy the core. And she was still inside. Rain forced herself up, stumbling forward. She had 3 minutes to escape. And she wasn't sure if she was still human enough to make it. Rain's boots pounded against the warping metal floor as she sprinted through the collapsing facility. The countdown was ticking in her ear. 2 minutes, 45 seconds. The core was reacting. The entire structure twisted around her, folding and unfolding in impossible ways. The hallways shifted mid-step, trying to keep her trapped inside. The facility itself was fighting back. Her breath was ragged, pain lancing through her left arm, the corruption pulsing in sync with her racing heart. It was getting worse. She could feel it now, an awareness in her blood, something pressing against her mind. Like a voice just beyond the veil, waiting for her to break. 2 minutes, 30 seconds. Rain forced herself forward. The exit bay wasn't far. If she could get to the external airlock, she could launch herself free. Let the orbital strike finish the job. She turned the next corner, and stopped cold. A wall of bodies blocked her path. Hundreds of them. The colonists, the soldiers, everyone the core had taken. They moved as one, their bodies shifting, their voices overlapping into an eerie, inhuman chorus. "You do not have to leave." Rain gritted her teeth, raising her rifle. "Get out of my way." The whispers intensified, slithering into her skull, pressing against her thoughts. "You are almost one of us." She felt it. A hunger. A pull. A piece of her that wanted to stop running. That wanted to stay. The core was inside her now. And it was winning. Her left arm twitched. A sudden jolt of pleasure pain ran through her veins. Her fingers moved on their own, clenching, the metal veins stretching like they were eager to become something else. For a split second, she wanted to let go, to step forward, to surrender. 2 minutes, 10 seconds. No. Rain clenched her jaw so hard it hurt, fighting back the wave of corruption. Not today. She opened fire. Bullets tore through the corrupted, black ichor spraying across the walls. The bodies lurched but didn't fall. Some absorbed the damage, some glitched, their wounds rewinding in real time. They were unstoppable. Rain didn't hesitate. She threw an incendiary grenade and dived into a side corridor. The explosion erupted behind her, fire and shrieks colliding as the corrupted writhed in the flames. She didn't wait to see the damage. She ran. 1 minute, 45 seconds. The walls shuddered, the core screaming through the facility. Rain felt it inside her chest, pounding in sync with her own heartbeat. Her vision flickered. 1 second she was in the present, racing down a collapsing hallway. The next she was somewhere else, somewhere outside time. A void. An endless black abyss with shifting fractured versions of herself standing in an infinite loop. Some were fully transformed. Some were dead. And one stood at the center. Not human. Not anymore. It was her, but evolved, a version of herself that had embraced the core completely. Future Rain looked at her with something close to pity. "You don't understand," she whispered. "The core doesn't destroy." Rain clenched her teeth. "It turns people into monsters." Future Rain smiled. "No. It makes us more." The void collapsed. And Rain was back in the facility, stumbling forward, gasping for air. 1 minute, 30 seconds. She pushed harder. The exit bay was within sight. And so was he. Tanner. The thing that used to be him stood in front of the airlock, his form shimmering, glitching between realities. His eyes were pure void, his body a shifting mass of past, present, and future all at once. "You can't leave," he said softly. Rain leveled her rifle. "Watch me." Tanner tilted his head. "You don't get it, do you? The core isn't keeping you trapped." He took a slow step forward, and suddenly he was right in front of her. "You belong here, Rain." The whispers slammed into her mind. And for one terrifying moment she believed him. She felt it. The pull. The hunger. She saw what she could become. A god of shifting time and form, beyond pain, beyond limits, beyond fear. The future was hers to rewrite. Tanner smiled. "You're already changing. I can see it." Her left arm pulsed, the metal veins crawling up her shoulder now, wrapping around her spine. A single thought flickered in her mind. What if I let go? She staggered, her rifle lowering. Tanner's voice was almost gentle. "Don't fight it, Rain. You were never meant to." 1 minute, 10 seconds. Something snapped inside her. Her instincts screamed. She lunged. Her metal-infused arm moved first, faster than she thought possible. She plunged her fist into Tanner's chest. His form glitched violently, his mouth opening in a silent scream. The core inside him fought back, trying to rewrite reality. But Rain had already changed, and she knew exactly what she had to do. Her fingers closed around his heart, and she tore it free. Tanner disintegrated, collapsing into light and shadow, his body unraveling like a broken timeline. Rain staggered, panting, staring at her own hand. Her claws dripped with shifting, unreal blood. Her arm was almost fully transformed now. She was out of time. 45 seconds. She slammed the airlock panel, the doors hissing open. The outside was a black void of storms and fractured space, the core's corruption spreading across the sky. The drop ship hovered nearby, its ramp down, waiting for her. She ran. Her legs burned, the facility collapsing behind her, the core screaming in rage. The whispers tried one last time. "You belong to us." She jumped. She hit the drop ship's ramp hard, rolling onto her back as the ship veered away, thrusters blasting her clear. Below, the entire facility began to rupture, tendrils of black light rising toward the sky. The countdown reached 0. The orbital strike hit. The sky erupted in blinding light. And the core was annihilated. Or so she thought. Because in that last moment, before everything vanished, she saw it. Not destroyed. Not gone. Waiting. And inside her chest, the corruption pulsed one final time. The core was still inside her. And it was not finished. Rain sat in the cold metal seat of the drop ship, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The orbital strike had hit directly, reducing the black iron core's facility to a crater of molten slag. It should have been over. But it wasn't. Because Rain could still feel it. The core was inside her. She clenched her left arm, suppressing a shudder as the metal veins twitched beneath her skin, responding to her thoughts. It hadn't died in the explosion. It had just changed tactics. And now it had her. The pilot's voice crackled in her ear. "Command, this is Valkyrie 1. Package secured. Requesting immediate clearance for medical quarantine." A distorted voice answered. "Acknowledged, Valkyrie 1. Proceed to Dock 7. Full decontamination protocols will be active." Rain exhaled, staring out the viewport. The facility was gone, but the planet below still shimmered, reality flickering at its edges. The core's infection ran deeper than she had thought. And now she was taking it off-world. The quarantine bay was pure white, the air sterile, pressurized. Rain sat strapped to the medical chair, monitors scanning her vitals. A doctor stood over her, face hidden behind a protective visor, muttering numbers to an unseen assistant. She wasn't listening. She was staring at the mirror across the room. At her own reflection. at the thing looking back at her. Her left eye had changed. The iris was now a shifting void, tiny fragments of light and time swirling within. And her arm. The corruption had spread. Black veins of metal now coiled up her shoulder, branching into her spine, her ribcage, sinking deeper inside. It wasn't just her arm anymore. It was becoming her. The doctor spoke, voice clipped. The infection is progressing faster than expected. Rain forced a dry laugh. You don't say. The doctor ignored her. We have two options. We attempt immediate limb removal, cut the infected areas off, or we put you into deep stasis until a permanent solution is developed. Rain's fingers twitched. She felt a cold pressure in her mind. Like something listening. Something waiting. She already knew the truth. They could cut off her arm. They could put her into stasis. It wouldn't matter. The core had already rewritten her at the molecular level. She wasn't human anymore. Not fully. She clenched her fists. Let me talk to command. The doctor hesitated. That's not. Rain ripped out the 4 lines, stood up, and glared. Now. The doctor swallowed and nodded. The command center was dimly lit, hollow screens flickering in the air. High-ranking officers sat around a long metal table, their faces grim, their eyes locked onto her as she entered. The admiral leaned forward. Lieutenant Rain, we are currently discussing your status. Rain smirked. Status? That's a nice way to say it. You are contaminated. The admiral's voice was cold. The black iron core did something to you. And now we have to decide what to do with you. Rain folded her arms. I can feel it. The core. It's still alive, even after the strike. That means this isn't over. Silence. She let that hang in the air before speaking again. You don't need to quarantine me. You need to use me. The admiral's expression darkened. Elaborate? Rain exhaled. You don't get it. The core wants something. It's not just rewriting reality, it's looking for a host. And guess what? She held up her corrupted arm, metal veins pulsing. It chose me. The admiral exchanged glances with the others. And what do you suggest? Rain leaned forward, her voice deadly calm. You send me back in? The dropship descended fast, the flames of re-entry streaking across the viewport. Rain sat in the cockpit, fully geared, pulse hammering in her ears. The planet's surface rippled below. The core wasn't dead, it was regrowing, reforming in the ashes of its old body. And she was going to end it. This time, she wasn't just a soldier. She was a weapon. The HUD in her visor flickered as the ship neared the ground. A voice whispered in her mind. Welcome back, Rain. She grinned. Miss me? The ship hit the ground running, doors slamming open. And Rain charged into hell one last time,